So here we are at one of my hives, not too far from where we just saw that wild swarm forming, which was actually quite a serendipitous opportunity for us. I just happened to be here and that was going on, which actually is just one of the wonders of nature. You know, it always is constantly entertaining you with something totally unpredictable, no matter how long you do something. And that's really what makes this enjoyable. But I thought we would open up and see inside the hive, and when these little critters go out and collect pollen, hopefully pollen and hopefully not plastic capsules, you know, what they do with it and how they bring it back into the hive. So let's go ahead and see if we can crack this guy open. Remove the lid, look inside. Here you can see the little happy bees on the inside of the cover. And now we'll open the inner lid and see what we've got inside. Take off the honey super. This upper portion is a super I had just placed on the hive for them to make honey. This is a new hive that just joined us here on the farm this year. So all these bees are new. New additions to our farm. And here we have them. This is the inside the brood chamber. Let's go ahead and take one of these frames out and see what these little guys have been up to. Little ladies, I should say. Let's see. Come on. Here comes one. Yeah. Let's see what we've got. Ah, good. You can kind of see everything here. Let me bring this up so you can take a look. Alright, what we got here is a frame from out of the brood chamber of this particular hive. Here you can kind of notice two distinct areas on this frame. The upper area is capped honey. So essentially we've got the honey there that they use as food, not only for themselves, but for the babies as well, the little baby bees. What you can see down here is actually in this darker color. I can't quite point it out because I'll drop the frame. But if you look at the bottom half of this frame, you can see the darker color, and that's where they've had brood. Some of it is still capped off, there's probably babies inside, and some of it is evacuated. It looks like the babies have already hatched, and these cells look pretty darn clean. Looks like the bees have pretty much cleaned these out, and they're ready for the queen to come by and lay some eggs in there, make some more babies. But you can see that the pollen that these bees actually collect are taken from the environment and brought directly into this hive and used as food not only for themselves but for the bees, the baby bees and the larvae as well. If you look at them, here, let me hold one up close. You can see the bees they're very small, quite fragile. They are insects. And so the insecticides that go into the atmosphere, if they're going to kill other insects and harm them, they're absolutely going to harm these fellows. They may have a stinger, unlike some, which cause people to respect and sometimes fear them, but they also are, in the end, only insects. And if the chemical can kill a grasshopper, well, it's going to hurt these bees too. And it turns out that there was a study from the University of Washington that basically was about examining this colony collapse disorder that the bees have been experiencing, that you hear a lot about in the news. And they found that in a lot of the wax, that's the comb that you see on the hive in which the cells in which they're placing this food, the wax from colonies that had collapsed actually were found to have a much higher residue of pesticides in them other than healthy bees. That makes sense. I mean, pesticides are designed to damage the insect, and at low levels, even if it's not enough to actually kill the insect, it certainly would weaken them to the point where the colonies may indeed collapse. And there's growing and growing research that using the same wax frames year after year in areas that are potentially contaminated with pesticides can over time cause the hives to weaken and indeed fail. And what's worse, these pheromones in these plastic and time-release capsules, and now they have capsules. They're experimenting with flakes, all kinds of different delivery mechanisms in a sense that reduces the need to apply the pesticides as frequently, but allows the pesticides to sort of self-release over time. So they're sort of continuously, automatically being applied. Well, these things are now totally new substances in the environment. Substances that the thousands of years of evolution have not had time to adapt to give these little ladies any sort of protection against them. So, again, just like the birds, they mistake these things as food, bring them back here, stuff them into cells, thinking they've got honey, and then they eat them and feed them to their babies, and we're all surprised later when hives seem to be weak and seem to be dying out, and the bees aren't doing as well. And of course, we're tied to these bees. They're critical to pollination. They're critical to the survival of the plants that we so depend on, and yet, we're inadvertently destroying them in an effort to protect our crops against some insects. We're actually harming them by destroying the other insects that are so critical. Actually, that's one interesting, unique thing. I was reading a book on organic beekeeping, and the author of that book had a very nice quote, or philosophy, I guess, of the way to look at these things. Bees are one of the few creatures on the planet that actually go out into the environment. They don't actually destroy anything. The pollen they take from the flowers and plants don't actually harm the plants and flowers. And on the contrary, by their foraging, they actually spread the pollen and pollinate the plants and flowers and make the world a better place. So without harming anything, they're able to feed themselves and make the world a better place in the future. Anyhow, these little guys look like they've had enough attention for today. I think I'll put the frame back in, and we'll give these folks, these little ladies, a little well-deserved rest so that they can go back to their business, taking care of themselves and their young.